The Woman in the Yard, a horror movie you might not have heard about, but deals with a lot of personal things like grief and depression, as well as loss. We're going to talk about those things and much more with this horror movie review of Woman in the Yard coming up on your next chapter of Killer Cuts. Woman in the Yard, a horror movie that I wasn't too sure what to expect going into it. I think I was expecting a lot different in terms of my horror fandom anyway, but there's some things to be said about this particular movie. Anyways, I'm Bobby Munson. We're going to talk more about that right away. This is Killer Cuts, and beside me, as always, it's Astrid Pizarro. Astrid, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Happy to be back with another Killer Cuts and interested to get your thoughts. Woman in the Yard. This was one that we hadn't covered yet. We have both seen it. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm going to do my best to recall it as much as possible here. But this movie kind of centered around it. I don't know, well, not kind of centered around it, completely centered around a woman who has tragically lost her husband. She is now a single mother raising two kids who they are to believe that it was their father who was behind the wheel of the car during the accident, but we do find out and are privy to the fact that she has hidden the fact that she was actually the one behind the wheel of the car that night. Woman in the Yard, interested to get your initial thoughts on this movie.
When I did see the trailer for this one compared to Sinners. So this one, when I saw the trailer and when I saw that woman in the yard, in my mind, it was one of those like, this lady's haunting her for a reason, but I just did it. I couldn't think of why she was haunting her because it felt like in my mind, and when I saw it this way, and even throughout the movie, when the movie really started and I saw the woman for the first time, I kept thinking in my mind, the woman's gonna end up being the main character, which is Ramona. That was my whole mindset, but I was thinking, how is she gonna be here and there at the same time? That was like my way of like thinking this gonna be connected later on. But seeing the trailer in this, I felt like it wasn't what I expected it to be, because I just felt like it's kind of like almost like a supernatural thing haunting her. But the way I saw it in the trailer, it didn't seem like it was kind of like that grief that was haunting her, and that was basically what the woman in the yard is like personified, exactly personified for Ramona in that like guilty mindset as well. That's something that I feel like it didn't give me the clue that's what it was in the trailer. And even when the movie does start, it doesn't feel that way at first. I feel like as we get more in time into it, as it really progresses, it's when we really start connecting the dots of like what really happened with her and the accident and why the father's no longer there and all the detailing behind that particular night. But I wish the trailer would have given a little bit more context as to who the woman in the yard really was. And I feel like what I'd like an explanation so that I can be like, oh yeah, I want to watch it just because I'm thinking of, I want to know why the woman is haunting her to begin with. And I felt like the trailer could have given a little bit more context to that. At least that's how I perceived it the first time when I saw it.
Yeah, and you know, like for me going into this, I wanted that haunting element a little bit more.
Mhm.
I think that's what I geared myself up for, and that was where the problem lies. I geared myself up for a haunting. It felt that way too. The beginning of the movie doesn't reveal too much, and when it doesn't reveal too much, it has that creep factor. It is broad daylight when we see this woman in the yard. This is not dark at night. This isn't jump scare, anything like that. There's a element of creepiness, in my opinion, when you put your horrific character right in the absolute daylight and make it this focal point kind of thing, and dressed and draped in all black so that you can't see anything underneath or understand why the woman in the yard is there. I was sold on this movie a good ways into the beginning. I think that the beginning had me hooked into it, which is why I didn't immediately go, okay, I'm checked out. I don't have an interest in this. It was on the right path. I just feel like when it got into the grief, and again, I don't have a problem with the idea that something deals with grief, or this is the way, this is somebody dealing with their grief. That's fine in most elements. But when it's sold to me as the horrific horror movie that it was, I think I felt like the turn of events that get revealed was a little too much to kind of make it no longer scary. Anything that made it creepy to begin with kind of got flattened for me once they kind of revealed what the element of this movie was going for, the story that it was going for. And that was where it took me out. And that was the only reason. It had nothing to do with the why. It just, for me, it was too much of the why. Too much of the why took away what I thought was a great, strong beginning to the film.
Yeah, I do get where you're coming from. I think one thing that I did like about the movie is that I feel like usually we don't get grief represented this way.
Mhm.
We usually see the people more like depressed and things like that, but this is literally there's a representation of her grief there, and her children are able to see it. Her children are able to witness it, experience it with her as well throughout this whole movie. So it just interesting to think of like how they personified grief for her, and how in the end we're able to like wrap it up in such a way that she's able to find like peace within her. But I feel like at first it was a little bit slow for me because we had those the moments between her and the son, and you're like wondering why they're so tense, and it leaves you with so many questions to begin with. And it felt kind of slow for me, and at the beginning of it I feel like once it really picked up that the lady was in the house, and we see her like more getting closer and closer to them, that's when it felt a little bit more interesting. But I just felt like the pacing of it wasn't for me at first to begin with. I feel like it kind of grew as it went, but it wasn't really bad either in that aspect of it. I feel like I'm like in the middle of it because I feel like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't one of the best movies I've seen recently, for example, either. But I feel like I don't know if other people have, but I like this one. For me, it almost doesn't feel like a horror movie either.
That's just it. I think it started feeling like that for me, especially like, again, like you say, getting in the house, the haunting, the supernatural element that was going on. But once you take that away and realize that it's kind of like this overshadowing manifestation that Ramona has created as a result of her grief and depression and everything like that, I get it. You're battling your internal monster. I get what they were trying to go for. It just, for me, that part kind of took away anything that really got me excited about the horror aspect of it. And so therefore kind of, yeah, it kind of softens the horror. And that's the problem, is when you soften the horror but you're selling it to horror fans, we feel a little bit cheated at times. And I think that's where this movie, failed a lot of people. It just cheated them out of the horror aspect. And I think that it's never going to be remembered in the way that it could have been. Had they admitted, early on, maybe if the story was always it was never going to be a twist as to this whole thing. Maybe had we just known right from the get go, we would have been a little bit more intrigued by the whole, manifestation of your own monster and stuff like that you deal with during a grieving period. Maybe that could have been more interesting if they would have explored that element from start to finish, as opposed to using it as a twist to this particular movie kind of thing, as if to sell us on, oh, surprise, like, no, it wasn't really surprising. It just kind of didn't really click, in my opinion. But I mean, the attempts were there. It's not the worst movie. Again, I'm not going to sit there and tell people don't watch it. I'm not going to sit there and tell people that this is the worst horror movie I've ever seen. I've seen some terrible horror movies. This doesn't even come close to the worst. Slow, yes, a lot of the time, very slow. Most people are probably going to find it quite boring, and without the horrific elements to it to really spice it up, I don't think most people are going to find their way to watching it. It might have a life of its own once it hits streaming, because as always on streaming, people love something new, and it might have a little rise there on whatever network it ends up landing on. But that's, I think, about as far as this movie can ever go in terms of cultural impact.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way that once it hits digital and it's one of those like it shows up like it's recently added or it's new or it's gonna catch people's attention. But I would like to see what people think about it after they finish it. Um, for me, it was the pacing that really what affected it for me, because it just, in my mind, I'm thinking, I think I don't know how long it had been between the accident and I don't think it feel like it been really that long, but it's like it makes you wonder, like, why did it happen on this particular day? Why didn't it happen yesterday, the day or the day after, with her, and like her fighting her inner demons and that grief and everything. I did like the aspect of including the children in here, because it's something like you can see that not only is she mad at herself because she's a woman in the yard, but she's also basically battling the way she is, that tension you see, especially with her older son, not as much with the younger daughter. But I like the family element that we get here, the fact that they also like running away from it. So it's not just her. But I feel like it would have been interesting if it was just her, because I know she's the one really experiencing the grief herself. But I'm like, they're experiencing it, but it's a little bit different from their aspect because they were not involved in the accident like she was. So their sense is going to be a little bit different in that aspect of it. But
Yeah.
I just feel like this, I wouldn't have really advertised this like a horror movie per se. That's the only thing. Like, I feel like in my mind, I was going into it thinking, oh, this is a horror movie. And I liked it. I enjoyed it, but I just feel like it wasn't the particular tagline they should have used for it.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I will say very positively is that the lead in this particular movie, Ramona, played by Danielle Deadweiler, I hope I pronounced that correctly. I apologize if I didn't. She was fantastic. She
Hmm.
sold her character so very well and carried a movie that doesn't have a whole lot of people involved in the movie itself. There isn't a lot of elements of, large cast and crew kind of thing. This was very, very, you know, carried on her back for almost the entire thing. And she does a fantastic job. I will say she is the silver lining of this movie. If there's any reason to watch it, it would be for her performance.
I definitely agree, like especially her facial expressions. We have those moments that she's able to show us really not only her grief, but her anger, and those moments that she's angry with her son, and the moments that she's annoyed with him too, because at this point everything annoys her because she's so on the edge since everything happened. And even that aspect of when the woman that you're really haunting her, you can see that changes in her facial expressions, that I feel like that really sells me into it as well.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna call it here on any last things to say before I go and tell us what the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes were for this particular movie.
I'd say this one's one of those like I'm really torn about. I feel like it's one that people will have to really watch and see how they feel about it. It's hard to, I don't want to say negative about it, but it was okay for me. I was hoping for something a little bit different from based on the trailer. So I would say go into it and then tell us how you felt afterwards to see if you agree with us or not. And no hard feelings if you don't agree with us though.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, oh, those comments are always open, so make sure to let us know in the comments what you thought of it. I would say wait for streaming. At this point, I mean, really, what choice do you have? It's pretty much going to be there soon anyway. I wouldn't. I don't want to say don't give a money your movie your money, a money your movie, a movie your money. I don't think it's worth investing the money to get a digital copy or anything like that. It's not that level of movie. It will hit one of your streaming networks. Watch it when you can on a Sunday afternoon when you've exhausted all other options. I think that's about where this one's at. Is it worth a watch? Sure. Is it going to wow you? Probably not. But at the same time, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. But kind of in almost borderline mixed when it comes to the critics. 66 reviews
Mhm.
counted from the main critics, 42% for the woman in the yard. When it comes to the certified critics on the, not the non-main critics, 47% on that side with over 1,000 counted. So again, very close on both sides of the fence, leaning in towards that just under 50% mark, where I think a lot of people kind of had the same consensus. It's when it's creepy and it's scary, it works. But once you get to that twist and everything like that, it kind of falls
Mhm.
apart and doesn't realize what it could have been at the same time. So I tend to be on the side of the critics here. I think I'm, it's in that so like it's not the worst, but it's really not worth, any huge investment into this one.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's one of those like if I hadn't gone to the movie theater to watch it, I would have just waited for the streaming services just to see what it was like. And just get my opinion from that, but not particularly like buying it or renting it ahead of time. Just waiting for it that once it's included on the streaming service. Um, yeah, I was like, yeah, this is still like one of those I'm really torn about. I feel like I enjoyed it, but I didn't at the same time, and I feel like it's not. I wasn't sold on what they were selling me on the trailer.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got lots more that we're going to be able to talk very positively about coming up here for everybody. As we're trying to pump out killer cuts every couple of weeks for you as much as possible, we're going to try to come up with. Also, I don't even think it's trying to come up with. We've already discussed it. We have got lots of content coming up because there are so many great horror movies coming up this summer, including we got that cool looking I Know What You Did Last Summer slasher coming up right around the corner. Might even have to throw some extra I Know What You Did Last Summer content in here for y'all. Yeah, I'm so excited. The world of horror has been blessed with so many great things as of late, and so many cool new projects that are in the works. Obviously, a lot going on with Scream 7 and announcements of 8 coming up too. So many things that we hope that you're going to be able to come and join us here for. This is the one place where we want to have open discussions and talk to you about what your feelings are on certain horror movies and let you make recommendations as well too. But any final thoughts as it pertains to The Woman in the Yard before we say our goodbyes, Astrid?
Yeah, like I mentioned, it's like it's one of those like I would at least give it a try to see how you feel about it because you might feel a little bit differently than we did. If you did, let us know because I would like to know everybody's thoughts on it. If they feel like that twist was definitely what you expected the twist to be, was it what you hoped it would be from the trailer? Did you feel like us, like we were like torn about it, but still we ended up watching it, enjoying most of it?
Yeah, exactly. But have you seen it? Have you not? Let us know in those comment section below. But Astrid, in the meantime, why don't you let everybody know what you got coming up outside of Killer Cuts and where they can reach you?
You can find me every Tuesday on Taking Over with OLED at Fry's talking about NXT. We do have Battleground coming up around Memorial Weekend. So if you haven't yet, hopefully by the time this is out, we have that on our YouTube channel there. So we have a preview and a poll show there as well. So really excited for our guests and to be having fun with this card that we have so far. Other than that, you can find me on Twitter, Blue Skies, Astrid Pizarro, and Instagram and Threads is Astrid Pizarro 20. And if you're here, you're most likely on my YouTube channel. So hit subscribe and the like button before you go.
There you go. Keep those subs coming out for Astrid, myself, Bobby Munson, over on the X. It's real Bobby Munson, Instagram Threads, Video Bros SK, Twitch, it's Video Bro _ Bobby Munson, and on the Blue Sky, it's Bobby Munson. What do I got coming up? Well, every Thursday night, you can catch myself and Papa Spokes for Ring Respect Radio, where we talk about independent wrestling, the history of pro wrestling, as well as have live trivia for you as well once a month. So check that out. You can catch me every Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time on Point of View, where we talk about the week in sports. And also we've got the draft coming up of some sort. Again, I'm not the sports super fan, but I'm there rooting on the guys and producing away, having some fun. You can also catch myself and Papa Smokes on every Saturday afternoon, Prairie Pro Wrestling, as we're heading towards the summer of drought, because I don't know I've got enough matches left to get through the summer, so I might have to be bringing you some interviews and stuff like that from the cast and crew of Prairie Pro Wrestling throughout the summer to fill the void. Make sure to stay tuned for that and subscribe to all those channels. Make sure to subscribe to this channel right here. It's OLE Podcast. You can catch us across all social media, as well as YouTube and Twitch at our local establishment. Please give us a sub, give us a thumbs up, put on that notification bell so you know anytime we got new material coming out here on the channel, and leave a comment. Let us know what you thought of this episode, what you'd like to see on future episodes, and what you thought of The Woman in the Yard. Well, that's going to be it for us here today on Killer Cuts, and until the next chapter, we'll see you soon.